Hello, this is Bad Vibes. Today's stories were all sent in by subscribers. If you have a story you would like me to read on this channel, please send them in to badvibes760@gmail.com. The link is in the description. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. My name is Kaytlyn. I'm a 27-year-old female and no stranger to being hit on or stared at by men, but that's usually as far as it goes, until one night. I was staying with my older sister and we were up late doing some arts and crafts. At around midnight, we decided to go to a nearby gas station for something to drink and cigarettes. On the way to the store, I noticed that we needed some gas, so I figured since we were going to the gas station, I might as well fill up. As I get to the gas station, I pulled up to the pump furthest from the store, which I now realize was a mistake. I walk up to the store and notice there was a man sitting on the sidewalk right in front of the store. I didn't make eye contact or speak, I just walked inside and got my stuff. After paying, I walked out and I immediately noticed the man that was sitting before was now standing and staring directly at me. This wasn't just any stare, it was a stare of intent, and it made me nervous. I pretended I didn't notice and started off towards my car, where my sister was waiting. As I walked past the man, I noticed that he immediately got behind me and started following closely. I didn't want him to know that I noticed, as it made me feel like I had the element of surprise on him, as opposed to him having it on me. I continued to watch him out of my peripheral vision, and from what I could see, his face and eyes were fixated on me, with a kind of malice that made me shudder, and still does. I don't know what he had planned for me, but I knew it wasn't good. I reached the car and shot my sister the help me eyes. Thankfully, she had been watching the whole time, and was ferociously staring behind me at the man. He noticed us too, and with another stroke of luck, someone just happened to pull into the gas pump behind me. The man that was following me with unwavering intent a few seconds earlier suddenly shuffled awkwardly to the side and then turned and walked off, looking down the whole time. I've never felt so threatened in my life. I felt like I was prey being stalked by a predator. This is such a crazy, scary world we live in these days. Always be aware of your surroundings and be careful. You never know who's watching and what they may have planned for you. So one day, I was driving to pick up a friend that lives in a crappy part of town. We were both gonna go see a movie. I really haven't even got to dating yet, after my fiance passed away. It'll be 4 years in October. Anyways, I had gotten changed and I looked pretty decent. I usually do. I never go out looking like I just rolled out of bed. There was this red truck in front of me, and at the time, I was driving a 2014 Hyundai Sonata Limited Edition. It's a good car. While I was driving, this truck was in front of me for a long time. I didn't tailgate him, and I stayed far enough back when we were at lights and stoplights. I started feeling like someone was staring at me, and I looked in my mirrors trying to psych myself into thinking that I was just overthinking. I should have listened to that little voice again, but I didn't this time, and I was a fool not to listen. Anyway, I finally look up in front of me, and I noticed the guy in the truck in front of me is staring at me through his rearview mirror. His driver's side window was down, and I noticed he stuck his hand out his window and adjusted his side mirror so that he could stare at me. The whole time I'm talking to myself, saying, so what, he's just staring, it's no big deal. But something gave me the creeps big time. He and I are the only ones on the roads, as we're in the middle of nowhere, and I stay pretty far behind him. The first time we come up to an entrance of a development, right before we get to the houses, there's this pull off with pavement, and he immediately pulled off without any kind of warning, no turning signals, nothing. But he was a little ahead, and he just stopped his car and sat there, and I slowed down, thinking that he might pull back out, but then I ended up just passing him. Well, as soon as I did, he floored it and got behind me. I've never seen anyone tailgate that close, to the point that you couldn't even slide your hand between the space. My legs were shaking so bad. I called my friend, and he says not to bring this person to his house, which I thought was a dick move. The guy didn't beep, he didn't say anything. He didn't even do anything but ride my ass and look at me. This went on for 10 minutes, and I swear to you, I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. My adrenaline was going through the roof, and my hands were sweating. I was taking curves 15 miles over the speed limit, and he kept up with me the whole time. Finally, his truck pulls up behind him. It was either one of those trucks that they use to cut down trees, or the ones that they use on power lines. The minute he did, the guy put his turning signal on and made a left. In an instant, he was gone. I don't know what would have happened if that truck hadn't pulled behind us. It literally made me sick. It might not sound so scary, but trust me, there was something very wrong with this person. Back when I was 19 years old, I worked at Victoria's Secret. It was kind of messed up because my friend and I both applied, and she was a beautiful girl, but her tooth was messed up in the front of her mouth, so they basically hired me and not her. I had all kinds of creepy stuff happen, like male customers would come in and say, "Hey, my wife is your size in underwear. What size do you wear?" Or, "What size bra are you? My wife is a similar size, and I want to buy her one." At first, I was mortified, and then it turned to, that's the lamest thing I've ever heard in my life. You're not getting my size. Anyways, I started noticing this gentleman come in every single day. Sometimes they would put me outside with a little stand, and it would have perfume on it, and I would try to get people walking by to try it out and buy it. Yes, I was one of those annoying people at the mall trying to get you to smell perfumes, to get you to come into the store. So this gentleman was in his late 30s and never really said anything to me. I felt deep down inside that something was off, but he never approached me, so I brushed it off as me being paranoid. I drove a 1985 Mustang, and when I would go outside in the parking lot, there would be a rose under my windshield wiper, and a note on a piece of paper saying how pretty I was. I was in a pretty bad relationship, so I wasn't telling my loser ex that I was having some issues with someone that I didn't even know. Then one day, another piece of paper was under my windshield wiper. It had a name and a phone number. I grabbed it, and when I looked up, parked directly across from me was the guy in his BMW just staring. He had these god-awful dead eyes that I could only describe as staring into black holes. He scared the shit out of me. When I went to go leave, he pulled out behind me. I tried to talk myself out of it, like I did many times in my life, and not listen to the little voice in my head. That voice had definitely helped me out over the years, and when I don't listen to it, it usually ended bad. He was tailgating me, and was pretty close. He even blew through a red light, though I tried to wait until the last second. And I was also running out of gas. I took this gigantic phone that was in the car. This took place in 2001, so phones were a lot bigger. But anyways, I called my dad. As the phone was ringing that very moment, we were on the highway towards my house. He pulled up next to me on the left, keeping the same exact speed. I look over at him, and he was doing obscene things with his mouth that I'm assuming he wanted to do to me. Finally, my dad answered the phone. I've always lived in the middle of nowhere all my life, and I love the peace and quiet, but that was the problem But instead, my dad talked me through something else. He told me to get off the next exit, which took me to a slightly busier town. He told me to take a right on the first street I got on. He asked me if he was still right behind me, and to make sure, he told me to take a few lefts, and after that, if he was still behind me, not to lead him to the house, because it was too dangerous. I wasn't really familiar with this town, and I had no idea where the police station was, so I took a few lefts and rights. Finally, I figure out where the police station is, and as I pull up, he stopped and rolled down his window. When I got out of the car, he said, "When are you gonna call me? I showed you what I wanted." I picked up the phone that I had in my hand, and I was so angry and scared. I was shaking, and I threw it at him, and managed to hit his car. He took off, and the phone broke, and I got in trouble. But once I explained everything, I wasn't charged with anything. This taught me to always pay attention, and never run on fumes in my car again, because it could have been much worse. So about 6 years ago, I started working at a gas station. After my fiance died, I kept the job for a while. A police officer would often come by at night. He was really nice and used to sit in the parking lot because I had to close up sometimes by myself, and they would just sit there and make sure I was okay and wait for me to lock up. But there was this one cop that always came in to get his Copenhagen wintergreen pouches. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's for people that used to like chewing tobacco. Basically a pouch you put in the side of your mouth. Anyways, when he would come in, he was friendly, but flirted a lot. A little bit later I found out he was married, and I stopped talking to him. He made no kind of effort to hide the fact that he was looking at my butt a lot. He would always say things that were a bit over the line of flirting, but he never really pushed it too far. My brother is a police officer, but not for the same precinct or county. But this police officer kind of used it as a reason to talk to me. My dad was also an elected official for this county that my brother worked in. When I told my friend about what the police officer said to me, he said that I should report it. There were a couple times when I went into a few stores to help fill in when they had people call out and they really needed help. He would come in the next day and say, "When I drove by, I didn't see your car. Where were you?" Like how a boyfriend would ask you if you came home late. But here's the thing, even I know this about police. If I went to the precinct, which was right down the street from where I worked, and said this guy was harassing me, they're gonna think I'm an idiot and not believe me, and I was just gonna make more enemies. If I told my brother, he would have probably lost his job because he would have done something. I just didn't want my brother to get blackballed. So when I was offered a job somewhere else, I jumped at the chance. It was not a great job, but I needed to get away. I worked there for too long. Everyone knew everything about me, since it was a small town with really only one stoplight. Well, fast forward about 4 or 5 months later. While I was driving like an idiot and I had my phone up because I couldn't really see it, and it was attached to my radio and I was trying to change it, and something happened to it. So I pass the light and I hear a siren and see the flashing lights. I pull over. I'm getting out my registration, license, and my insurance, and then I roll down my window. It was the police officer from my previous job. He looked surprised and said that he didn't know it was me. I don't know if I believed him or not. He asked me how I was doing and said that he noticed my vehicle was not at the gas station anymore, and why I didn't tell him that I was leaving. He then said that since I was such a sweet, pretty girl, that he would only be giving me a warning. He asked me if that was the right address. I had just moved with my kids into a house that we still live in, but I hadn't changed my address on the license yet. But I had to give him the right address. He then said, "Are you sure this is the right one?" I said yeah, and he walked back to his cruiser. A few minutes later he came back and gave me a warning, and he said maybe he'll see me sometime soon. Well, he was not lying about that. About 2 months go by and my car is sitting in my driveway in the front of the house that can fit 2 vehicles. The driveway was huge and went into the back of our 4-bedroom house. It was a 1920s rehab, which was beautiful and I loved it. It was the middle of the afternoon, and I only noticed this because my TV points towards the street, which meant my back was towards the window, which looked out to the street. I noticed a light go across the wall of my living room. For some reason, it made me feel like someone was out there. When I look up, there's a sheriff's SUV sitting next to my car. So immediately, the first thing I thought was something happened to my brother. It was the worst feeling, trying to get to the door to figure out what was going on, because I really couldn't see inside the vehicle until I got closer, and it was that cop. I was flabbergasted, and that doesn't happen a lot. He told me that he came out to check on me to see how I was doing, how my dating life was, and if I was talking to anybody. Also, if anyone else lived there, and what kind of house it was. The whole time I'm wondering what the hell is he doing there, just standing there talking to me, shooting in the breeze for a half hour. What could he have told them was the reason for him sitting outside my house? My neighbors were outside, so it was kind of awkward. My son was in the house, and I was shaking. I shake when I get upset or when I'm scared, and I actually started shivering, and I think he could tell I was nervous, so he came over and gave me a hug. He then said, "Is there any way we can go to the park and ride, and then you can play with my, I'll just use the word penis." He said that he wanted me so bad, whispering in my ear when he hugged me. I shook my head no, and he got angry, real angry. I could see it in his face. I was like, I have to go back inside. By then, I was ready to pass out. He was so brazen, to say the least. He said, since you don't have a boyfriend, maybe I can stop by your work sometime. Probably 2 weeks later, I got a job working nights, and I was working 60 hours a week. At least he hasn't been back since I sleep during the day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't look outside when I think someone's out there, and it still makes me jumpy. When you use your power of the badge to do wrong, you make the good cops look bad by abusing your power. He has done so much and said so much that I can't say here, and it's literally sexual harassment. In the beginning, I told my manager at the gas station what was happening, and she said that he was a regular customer, and that unless he touched me or did something like that, she couldn't do anything about it. Anyways, it's been a while since I've seen him, and hopefully we won't cross paths again.